So, while we wait for the Montreal Canadiens to trade Carey Price, we have ourselves some actual conversations to have here. Now, I'm back from my trip, as I'd mentioned a few videos ago, so I can sit here and start catching up on all the things NHL related that we were not able to talk about the past few days. And I wanted to dive into this. JFresh's Twitter account and his model's predictions on the upcoming NHL season. This is going to be really interesting, and I think that JFresh's model provides a decent insight as to how the analytics view the league. I wanted to focus on my two favorite teams here in the Pacific and the Atlantic, the Vancouver Canucks and the Montreal Canadiens. Starting out with the more, let's just say optimistic thing to dive into, JFresh's model in 2025-2026 has Vancouver in the first wildcard spot over the Winnipeg Jets. Via the model here, Vancouver would be playing off against the worst of the top teams in the Pacific and the Central. In this case, they'd be playing off against Vegas in the first round of the playoffs. A destined rematch of the 2020 second round in the bubble. It's interesting, in my mind, to see Vancouver place very highly in this model, above teams like the Utah Hockey Club, who are on the up and up, above the Minnesota Wild, and above the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets, of course, are taking a big hit with the departure of Nikolai Ehlers. The Utah Hockey Club are getting a pretty big boost with their young guys getting older and more experienced. Meanwhile, Vegas, Edmonton, Dallas, Colorado leading the West in the top four. Not surprising there, those teams are all very good, Dallas being the President's Trophy winning team in JFresh's model. That's not surprising to me either, considering the fact that Dallas is so stacked. They've got Duchesne re-signed. He took a pretty big discount. They still have Robertson. They've got Rantanen, or at least they have Robertson for now. And then everybody else to round out that lineup. Wyatt Johnston is a stud. Rupe Hintz is awesome. You have a lot of really good depth on that team. And Thomas Harley is looking amazing too. Does Vancouver have it in them, though, to overtake and beat out Winnipeg, this previous season's President's Trophy winning club? Of course, they were kind of carried by Connor Hellebuck and some very good diverse scoring throughout, but you have to ask yourself, is that destined to repeat itself in 2025-2026? Is Connor Hellebuck that good to be able to carry the team and get another Hart-caliber season? I mean, it's possible, but you can't really ever be too sure with goaltenders in that respect. For the Canucks, though, to finish in fourth place in the Pacific and actually make the Stanley Cup playoffs, I do think that the expectations for this team are a little bit skewed. I've been seeing a lot of people saying, oh, everything needs to go right for Vancouver in order for them to be successful. And that is true. I've been preaching that as well here on this YouTube channel. If Vancouver wants to get to the heights that Patrick Allvin and Rutherford believes they can get to, everything needs to go right. Demko needs to be healthy. Pettersson needs to be good. Hedl needs to be healthy and good. But I also respond to the opposing perspective that says that for the Vancouver Canucks, they were a team that was just on the outside looking in of the playoff picture the most recent season in 24-25, and by all accounts you can say they were very disappointing in that previous season. So, two things can be true at once. The Vancouver Canucks, firstly, do need everything to go right if they want to be able to put themselves in a playoff position, to put themselves in a winning position, but at the same time, Vancouver was really close to the playoffs last year, and they performed considerably under the expectations. So, I honestly do think there's a reasonable amount of optimism that can exist in the Vancouver Canucks in their game. They were, 6 points out of a playoff spot? And that might not sound like a really small amount, but still, if the Vancouver Canucks just got a few more overtime wins, they could have closed that gap. Regardless, JFresh's model, with the additions of Evander Kane, the departures of Dakota Joshua, and Pius Suter, the Canucks are still seen as a pretty good team and a team that's caliber is in that playoff territory. So we'll see whether or not that actually does come to fruition here. Let's go on to talk about the other team, though. My second favorite team, the Montreal Canadiens, finishing not only as the worst team in the Atlantic Division, but one of the worst teams in general. They're labeled as the third worst team in the East and the, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh worst team in the league. Is Montreal going to be that bad? Are they going to finish under the Detroit Red Wings? Well, there was a reply asked out here by Noah. He says here, I'm genuinely curious why your model has the Habs as last in the Atlantic. It's hilarious and I hope it happens, but I feel like they improved a lot this offseason. JFresh responds, 1. The Habs were not good last year, and they snuck into the playoffs with a 20-goal differential, which usually gets a team about 84 points. 2. The Habs were an even worse expected goals team. And 3. The model doesn't have anything on Demidov, which is obviously a wild card. And a response goes out there and says, the conclusions you're drawing are predicated on those numbers being backed by consistency. They got blown out several times in November, but were dominant in January and post-Four Nations. Saying they were a -20 with a bad expected goals against doesn't paint an accurate picture of their season. JFresh then says their underlying numbers were bad all year, even when they were winning games like crazy. So this goes into the heart over mind type of argument where you think about a team that was so exciting and so captivating to watch this previous campaign, and you say, hey, they were fun, they were exciting, they provided lots of good moments, and there was a lot of buzz about the team, but underlying metrics, they weren't looking all too hot. And as a result, they're finishing last here in the JFresh model for 25-26, because of these numbers and the fact that Ivan Demidov is pegged as a top 6 forward, even though he has no other NHL numbers. Which is fair. The argument is they're not going to put him in a high-valued position in the model because they literally have nothing to go off of. But with the Montreal Canadiens being so bad, quote-unquote, in the most recent season, one might ask, with the improvements that we are about to see, out of guys like Demidov and Hudson and Caden Gooley and Slavkovsky and Caulfield, and the hopefully more consistent back end with Noah Dobson added to the fold, I do wonder if this model is being very, very pessimistic on the Montreal Canadiens. I do wonder if exponential growth and more improvement is possible compared to the numbers they had accomplished the most recent campaign. For Vancouver, it's great because they were a pretty unlucky team that was not really getting the results, and they had some additions and they were looking pretty good. I'd say that in general, their decor and their goaltending carries them here. But for Montreal, it's like you have a first-year rookie D-man who's looking to have a really good second season. Hopefully he doesn't have a sophomore slump, knock on wood. You have Noah Dobson in the mix. But then there are some other guys and some other situations from this team's analytical profile that don't look all too great, and it puts them lower than everybody else in the Atlantic in the JFresh model. So I do kind of wonder if that is common amongst other models and NHL analysts to go out there and talk about. For what it's worth, JFresh did post a bunch of other ones here. He also posted this. I made a small tweak to the projection based on updated depth charts. We'll answer any questions on these projections, which I'll post updated the day before the season, and hope, as every year, it'll be among the least incorrect ones. And you still see Montreal down there at the bottom. You still see Vancouver in the 4th place spot in the Pacific. It's kind of nuts. We'll see. For what it's worth, though, FanDuels was also posted here by JFresh. They had Montreal at 90 points, good enough for 5th in the Atlantic and outside of the playoffs. FanDuel also had Vancouver out of the playoffs, but still 4th in the Pacific with 90 points on the year. So ultimately, these are just predictions. These are just odds. These are just people going out there and tossing out numbers. And I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the JFresh model ranking Montreal so low and Vancouver into the playoffs? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.